Imagine a world powered by steam and electricity, where cities glowed under new electric lights, but long-distance communication was silent, bound by wires. In the late 19th century, messages traveled through telegraphs and undersea cables, a fragile network at the mercy of storms, accidents, and sabotage. But a radical idea was taking hold in the minds of scientists. What if the air itself could carry our voices? This question would spark one of the greatest technological races in history, a battle of ambition, genius, and obsession. At the center of it all, a single question: who truly invented radio? Was it the visionary Nikola Tesla, the relentless Guglielmo Marconi, or perhaps scientists like Heinrich Hertz or Alexander Popov? This isn't just a story about technology, it's a story about the fight to control the invisible. It all began with sparks in the dark. In 1887, German physicist Heinrich Hertz conducted a series of brilliant experiments. He created sparks that jumped across a gap, generating invisible electromagnetic waves that were detected by a simple receiver loop a few feet away. He had proven James Clerk Maxwell's theory of electromagnetism a monumental achievement. Yet, when asked about the practical applications of his discovery, Hertz famously replied, "It's of no use whatsoever. It's just an experiment that proves Maestro Maxwell was right." He couldn't have been more wrong. News of his discovery electrified the scientific community. In labs across the world, inventors began building Gehovone spark gap transmitters. The air crackled with energy as they tinkered with antennas, coils, and crude detectors, trying to harness these mysterious waves. The public was already fascinated by invisible forces like electricity and magnetism, and this new discovery of Hertzian waves felt like tapping into a supernatural realm. A new frontier had opened: wireless communication. The race was on to turn these laboratory curiosities into a world-changing technology. Into this race stepped two very different men. First, Nikola Tesla, the Serbian-American genius, a true visionary who dreamed on a planetary scale. He wasn't just thinking about sending dots and dashes, he envisioned a global wireless system that could transmit power, information, and images to anyone, anywhere on Earth, using massive towers to energize the planet itself. His mind operated in a different dimension from his contemporaries. Then there was Guglielmo Marconi, young, pragmatic, and incredibly ambitious. The Italian inventor was less a pure scientist and more a brilliant entrepreneur. While Tesla was dreaming of a wireless world, Marconi was focused on a single achievable goal: sending a signal from point A to point B, and then selling the technology to make it happen. He was well-connected, disciplined, and had a knack for turning scientific principles into commercially viable products. The conflict began almost immediately. Tesla had already filed patents for a complete radio system, including the crucial tuning circuits that allow a transmitter and receiver to operate on the same frequency, years before Marconi even started his experiments. In fact, Marconi's initial designs borrowed heavily from the work of others, including Tesla. But Marconi had something Tesla lacked: a relentless drive for commercial success and the backing of powerful investors. The rivalry reached its climax in December 1901. Marconi claimed to have received the first transatlantic wireless signal, the letter S in Morse code, sent from Cornwall, England to Newfoundland, Canada. The world was stunned. Marconi became an overnight global hero, celebrated as the father of radio. But many scientists were skeptical. The signal was faint and unverified, and some believed it was just atmospheric noise. But it didn't matter what the experts thought. The public and the press loved the story, and Marconi's fame and fortune were secured. The patents for radio technology became the weapons of this new tech war. Tesla held the foundational patents for the core technology, including the tuning system that made reliable radio possible. Marconi, backed by his wealthy investors and growing political influence, challenged these patents relentlessly. Initially, the court sided with Tesla, acknowledging his priority in the invention. Tesla's work was of the highest order, but this legal victory meant little in the real world. Radio had become a critical strategic asset. For shipping companies, it meant safety and communication on the high seas. For governments, it was a tool for military intelligence and global news dissemination. And Marconi's company was the one building and selling the practical working systems. Governments and corporations chose availability and practicality over patent purity, cementing Marconi's dominance. The final bitter irony came decades later. In 1943, just months after Tesla died, bankrupt and alone in a New York hotel, the U.S. Supreme Court finally overturned Marconi's key patents. They officially recognized Nikola Tesla as the true inventor of radio, reinstating his earlier patents. It was a posthumous victory, a correction of the historical record, but it was far too late for the man who had dreamed of a wireless world to ever see the credit or the profits. Despite the bitter rivalry, radio's impact on civilization was undeniable and immediate. In 1912, the unsinkable Titanic struck an iceberg and began to sink into the frigid Atlantic. The ship's Marconi operators frantically sent out SOS signals, the new international distress call. Their desperate pleas were picked up by a nearby ship, the Carpathia, which raced to the scene and saved more than 700 lives. Suddenly, radio wasn't just a novelty, it was a lifesaver. The disaster led to new laws requiring all passenger ships to be equipped with radios and manned 24/7. Then came World War I, the first conflict fought on the airwaves. Radio became a weapon. Military commanders used it to coordinate troop movements, navies used it to hunt submarines, and intelligence agencies intercepted enemy messages, deciphering codes to gain a crucial advantage. It was also used for propaganda, broadcasting nationalistic messages across borders. After the war, radio's role shifted utpadn again. It entered the home, transforming society. For the first time, music, news, sermons, and advertisements could be broadcast directly to millions of people simultaneously. Presidents could speak to the entire nation in fireside chats, creating a new sense of national unity and shared experience. Humanity had entered its first global information age. A single voice could now reach an entire country, an entire continent, in an instant. The world had been rewired. Today, the legacy of that first tech war is all around us, humming silently in the background of our modern lives. The principles pioneered by Tesla, Marconi, and others are the foundation of our connected world. Your Wi-Fi router, the GPS in your phone, the Bluetooth connecting your headphones, the satellites beaming down television signals, all of it is a direct descendant of those early spark gap transmitters and crackling receivers. The story of Tesla versus Marconi teaches us a crucial lesson about innovation. It's rarely the work of a single, isolated genius. It's a chain reaction of discoveries, a messy process combination of rivalry, collaboration, and incremental breakthroughs. Tesla was the visionary who saw the future, but Marconi was the pragmatist who built it, step by step. Ultimately, the invention of radio was more than just a technological leap. It was the birth of our connected civilization, the moment humanity learned to speak across the void. Those invisible waves, once a laboratory curiosity, didn't just change the 20th century. They continue to shape our world today, carrying our data, our voices, and our stories through the very air we breathe.